Shall we
So
start with the
let's,
beginning?
yes, please, please. I am Margaret Williams from the Empowered Leader publication. Uh, I'm a certified executive leadership coach, a systemic team coach. I have a master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology. As of 30 September, not long from now, I will no longer be a government employee. Please know me. Please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for inviting me, Margaret, first of all. Who am I? I haven't prepared for this part. I always improvise, but I know who I am, so I'll be able to speak to it. Um, my name is Naomi Apeti. I'm an ex-corporate lawyer, helping IT companies grow, sell, employ, develop. And I've been doing this for the past more than 12 years, lost count. And I don't know, around 9 months ago, I decided I don't want to work for companies anymore. I want to work for myself. I tried different size companies, leadership roles or execution roles, and they were all wonderful. But it came a time in my life where I wanted to do what felt right for me, for my family, which meant taking the scary step of going out on my own. And so now I have a publication called Me Time, and I have a company called Me Time Consult. And what I do is I help startups put in place their legal framework, so contracts, how to do business, to grow stably, not spend too much money, to make sure that they're getting customers, that what they're building is safe, sturdy, so they can grow and grow and grow. And on the Me Time publication side, what I do is I basically coach people that are in mid-career in how to move to the next phase in their life. And what I mean by that is, I guess the most easy way to describe it is midlife crisis. But sometimes the crisis comes differently. And maybe it's not an internal dissatisfaction. Maybe there's a layoff, or maybe there's an illness that shows up, divorce, I don't know. All kinds of things happen to us that kind of shake us to our core, where you just are left a bit shaken. You're left a bit unsure what to do next. And I found something that could really, really help people. It's something from a book called Life is in the Transitions. It's a book by Bruce Feiler. He's an American writer that uses storytelling in order to help people work through life transitions. And I'm going to present to you a little bit the premise of this book. So this gentleman, Bruce Feiler, he, in the span of maybe like 2-3 years, was lost his job and was diagnosed with a terrible cancer, bone cancer, and lost one of his legs. So it was, and at the same time, his dad was diagnosed with dementia, if I'm not correct, if I'm not mistaken. And he was really struggling with all these things that were happening personally in his life. And because he was a writer and a storyteller, he felt that telling people stories, helping themselves tell their stories is going to help process. And he started doing a lot of research, reaching out to a lot of people that have been through hell and back to try to draw the line between, to figure out how people move through these kind of transitions, through these life breaks, through these struggles that we all inevitably go through. And he found he created a structure of how to deal with it. And there's the main premise of the book is this, that the only guarantee in life is change. There's many types of changes in life. There's small changes as we develop. There's also think that happen, let's say, around every 1 year, 1 year and a half. Then there's these bigger changes that are called life quakes. Life quakes can be moving to a different country. Life quakes can be, if you've been working for the same company organization for a decade and then something happens. I'm not going to
Mhm.
give examples, Margaret. And
We
then
all have them.
happens. Then that's a life quake. Um, and in these are these changes that are so strong that they basically shake the foundations of your life, but you cannot avoid them. They come from the research around every 5 years or so. You have these big changes in one's life. It can be also beautiful changes like getting a new baby. That also changes your life, right? And you need to adapt.
Yes.
You need to get the new member in the family. The routines change everything, the dynamics within the family members and so on. So life quakes are not necessarily bad. And we could even argue that they're always good because we always need to evolve and deal with whatever life throws at us. But that was the question. How do you deal with it? How do you actually move on and don't get taken down by what's happening? And the first thing that you have to do is you need to accept the change. And acceptance is exactly how it sounds. You need to realize that whatever happened, well, has happened. So spending too much time with regret, with rumination, with what if I did this, what if I said that, or things like that, is just a guarantee for you staying stuck in the rut of self-pity and not accepting what's happening, and it's just not going to be constructive. So, first step is this acceptance step. And mm, there's a pre step to that, which is if the life quake is something sudden, like an accident, like a diagnosis, like someone being laid off, things like that. There's a first step, which is what do you do in the first 48 hours? Because your head is going to be just all over the place. You might be a bit in shock. You might not take care of yourself. You might not know what to even think about. So there's a step to what to do there in the first 48 hours of a life break hitting. And the first one obviously is looking at safety and obligations. So look at your insurance, look at your employment contract, look at deadlines that are coming up that you absolutely cannot miss, like a mortgage payment, rent payment, whatever needs to happen. Figure out if you have money for the absolute basics. How much cash do you have in your hand? What runway do you have with the situation you're in now? Then you look at your calendar and you erase everything related to the earthquake. Let's say I in the example handout that I created for there, it's in my me time chat. So if you subscribe, you can see it there. If not, Margaret maybe can download it and share it with your subscribers. Anyways, in the handout is there in my example that I use the words layoff because my husband is about to hear if he's being laid off or not. Yep. Second time in 2 years. Um, and so it's kind of on my brain. Um, it happens and it's unfortunate, but I'm not going to talk to the politics of that and how companies act and things like that. Let's keep it constructive. Anyway, so the example is layoff. So you get laid off. What do? You look at your contract, see what are your rights, how much money they should give you, what notice period, what obligations of confidentiality, IP rights, anything like that that you need to know about. Then you need to inform two people about what's happening, two close friends, someone to kind of have your back emotionally. It can be your wife and your friend. It can be your work buddy if you feel like you want to speak to someone within the company, anyone you can that can, your priest, whatever really gives you some sort of solace, is a voice of reason, and wants the best for you, because you need some moral support. And the thing about the calendar is, erase everything related to work, erase everything that's optional, that would put you in a circumstance where people are like, "Oh, how have you been? Tell me what's going on, what's new." And maybe you don't want to talk about what's going on and what's new. So you might want to pare down your calendar to your core things. Like, you would maybe still want to go to church because that gives you solace. You might still want to go to your sports activities because you love that and it kind of gets you out of your head. But there might be things that you might not want to join, like a networking event, because it's fresh and it's raw, and you might not want to be doing that. So making these kind of very practical decisions, so you can just kind of buy yourself time to pause, be rational, and just think in very short steps. I'm sure Margaret is going to record this and share with everyone. So I have a bit of steps to go through. So I don't know if I'm going to have time to repeat myself. But for the ones joining, I'm talking about how to deal with life quakes. And a life quake is an event in your life that is so significant that it basically disrupts your life. It can be a layoff, it can be a diagnosis of something quite bad, it can be an accident, a health related thing, or it can be a joyous thing like giving birth to a baby, um, or a move to a different country, which is something that you might have chosen, but it's still going to be hard, right? Or
Absolutely.
across the country, or things like that. So the first 48 hours are about basic stuff. Like, if you move to another country, where do we live when we land there? How do we get to the place where we stay? Do we know anyone in the city to kind of help us to like find rental properties or whatever? A lot of that stuff now with the internet you can plan from abroad, but you need to be very, very practical as you land in a new place. Then after the 48 hours, you need to go through the phases of transitioning into a new life phase. And there's 3 phases. There's the long goodbye, and it's about, not only accepting what's happening, but also letting go. Letting go of what has been and all the great things that you learned, and then so on, but also kind of moving your present state into accepting what's reality now. Then the other phase is, and it might not be always chronological, but there are 3 phases, right? So first phase, long goodbye, maybe first phase. Then the messy middle, and this is where you're not really sure what to do next. So because you don't know what to do next, you're kind of confused and you're kind of clumsy about things and maybe worried and everything is a bit unsure. So what's suggested is, I'm going to tell you what, but just as a what's it called? A spoiler, is run some experiments. And then the last phase, the beautiful phase, the renaissance, is the new beginning, where you've run your experiments, you've made some decisions, you've come out on the other side with the new you, or the new gig, or the new way of approaching life, or taking by the reins the life that God gave you with maybe the health that you have right now, and trying to recover even more, whatever that is. So those are the phases. Again, everything is in the handout and more detailed, so you can get it. And it's also linked to the book that this is based on. So you guys go there and buy the book. I'm not sponsored by anyone or anything. It's just something that's helping me right now, and I'm sharing with everyone else. Okay. So the long goodbye, its objective is to basically let go of the old chapter because it's not helping to stay there. It hurts. Just to exemplify what you need to do is basically, if you feel like you're stuck in, but why? But why me? But why now? But why? Why are they doing this? But what could have been a different, like, what if some it would have happened differently, and all that is not productive. It's just making you suffer more and more. And of course, in a way, it's kind of feels good to do it, psychologically, somehow suffering more about it. I don't know. We find some sort of solace in it. It's not constructive. So you can do it for a little while, but after a few days, you need to kind of step into a new phase. And just to understand kind of the smallest change that you can make is, instead of asking why, you should ask what. Meaning, instead of saying why this, why that, why me, why now, say, what can I do now? What can I change? What can I do with what I have now? So you move from the power that others have over you to what you have that can help you move to the next part of your life. Okay. So you're taking back power, and power is a beautiful thing to keep on, hold on to. So in terms of letting go, you can write yourself a letter where you basically let go of the old chapter. You say your goodbyes, you say your thank yous. You can even have a ritual where you just burn your employment contract over a beautiful lake, and you just throw out the ashes, whatever is cathartic for you. It can be dramatic. It has to be you. It has to feel good. It has to be like goodbye. So, like, doing a little funeral for your old you and your old life. Then it's a bit about uh, boundaries, kind of deciding how do you want to deal with discussing about it, with how do you want to speak about what happened. And, like, for example, when I lost my father, I told people that I really don't like them asking how I feel, because it's, for me, not helpful. I don't want to talk about it. So building those boundaries in a respectful, nice way, where you basically tell people as you realize it, because sometimes you don't even know how you feel, but as you realize that maybe you don't want to talk about it, share that with enough of your close people, then maybe they also share it with other people. Like, don't ask, like, they're not ready for it. Something like that. So create these boundaries for yourself of, like, what do you need right now to be able to function and not put too much emotional pressure on yourself when there's enough of it already. And then give yourself some time for this, because let's say someone loses their leg, like the author of the book. It's not overnight that you're like, oh no, I have one leg. It takes time. I i went through burnout, and I had to accept burnout, and I had to accept that now I live with two autoimmune diseases, nothing crazy, but still that affect me, that I see every day on my body. And I had to accept that that was me now, that the me of the past with almost perfect health is no longer, but that I can deal with what I'm doing now. But it took a while to get here, right? So allow yourself the grace and the time to transition through it. And these phases might overlap. So you might be in long goodbye phase. That's why it's called long. Um, but also begin to want to start experimenting what you're gonna do next, right? So that's the second phase, experiment. Um, it, so this is the middle phase normally, where you're kind of a bit drawn in both places. Hopefully, you're not asking them many whys, and you're thinking more about what now. And here it's about running short term experiments, like 1 week, where you think about your options. So for me, I'm a lawyer. If I were to reinvent myself again, I would have to think, oh, do I want this type of role, like general counsel in a company? Or do I want to try consulting? Because no, that's what I'm doing. Oh, and then you try to figure out have a coffee meeting with someone that has the role that you want and figure out how it is, what the pressures are, what the compensation is, whatever is interesting you, and figure it out. Try to see if you can get as close to kind of those roles as possible to understand if it's something for you or not. And the same with something else. It can also be maybe the layoff that might have happened felt terrible because it always feels terrible. But you realize that you weren't that happy in the role to begin with. So you start asking yourself, what can I do that makes me feel more alive, more excited about life? And then try to do something like that. So for me, it was coaching. I wanted to do coaching because I was doing it in my previous role a little bit. And it gave me so much joy that I wanted coaching to be part of my future in whatever shape that would be. So I ran a little experiment. I wrote to the community that I was part, and I said, I'm looking for 3 people to be my coachees. I want to start my coaching practice, and I want to already get started on my practice of it. So for free, write to me your motivation, and I will pick three that I want to work with, and then we can continue. It was amazing. I loved it. So, run these experiments. But the thing about an experiment is you need to set your goals for the experiment, what you're trying to figure out. How long do you want the experiment to run? And very important, last part is to draw conclusions about that experiment. Because if you're just running an experiment that's just like, oh, let me try this, let me try that, but you're not like being methodical about it, like a scientist, you might kind of lose the learning part of it. So you need to really be very methodical about it and run these experiments, not more than 3 at a time, because then your brain is gonna lose attention. It might be too much. That's what um, is recommended. And then signals that the experiment is a good one, and maybe that's a path you should experiment more on or try to see what your options are. Is that you feel a lot of joy when doing that thing, experimenting with being a coach, for example. So how do you feel? Like, do you feel like your soul is dancing inside of you, like I feel when I go on lives with wonderful people like Margaret? Or do you feel like this dread when you're doing it, and then maybe that's not for you? Then you also might discover while you're doing these experiments that I'm enjoying it. I love it. But when I see the recordings, I don't like how I sound. I don't like how I speak. I don't like my vocabulary. So you discover some gaps that you can fill, right? You can become more eloquent. You can train yourself a little bit more on how you show up on camera. You figure out what's still to develop and you put it down as something to do. Maybe you have more time now if you've been affected by a layoff, right? So create something constructive for you to do while you wait for the roles to roll in and things like that. Another thing that uh, basically is very important when you're doing these experiments is figuring out if there's a market for what you're really enjoying doing from your experiment. So if you're experimenting with, I don't know, needlepoint, funny sayings that you're trying to sell on Etsy, figure out, are there other sellers doing needle points, funny saying thingies? Are they making money there? Because otherwise, you might want to think of something else. Some you do for your soul, and it's a hobby, and the money is a bonus. If you want a business and something that runs, obviously you need to also think of the monetary part. If there's a demand for your skill, if there's a demand for what you're trying to do. For example, when I didn't actually start my consultancy, I just quit my job. And then I texted a previous boss of mine and I said, hey, I'm quitting. So you're going to need to be my reference again. So get ready. And he's like, oh, start your own company. I need you. So I did. We're still working together. It's a wonderful collaboration, and it was the push from the back of something that I would have never done if it was for me, because I didn't identify as a business person or anything like that. But that's kind of the thing. You put your feelers out there. You talk to trusted people. It's really important that you speak to people that you've worked really well with to kind of get their point of view of, because you see yourself from the inside, you have your own thoughts about who you are, what you do. Others see you differently. Others can see some blind spots that you have, not in terms of defect, but in terms of actually superpowers. Like the boss that, my last boss I had told me, Noemi, you're wonderful at change management, at getting shit done, at aligning people and moving them into whatever direction. You're organized, you see the path, you put everyone in the different things that they need to do, and things move wonderfully. And that's not something that everyone can do. And because I'm inside myself, I'm like, doesn't everyone do that? Like, easy peasy. But every person has their own skill and magic and superpower. And sometimes you don't notice yours because it's so easy and innate in you that it doesn't even occur to you that that might not be, something useful or amazing or an actual superpower. So talking to people and seeing their view, even though it might feel cringe a bit to ask about it, do it, because you're gonna discover amazing things from it that then are gonna really shift maybe sometimes your perception about what you want to do next. Because consulting is a lot about getting stuff done and being very efficient about it. I wouldn't have done that if I didn't know that. When she told me that, I realized that, yeah, I'm good at that. And also, yes, I really enjoy it because I like to see results. I don't like long, protracted processes where it's just a grind and you don't see the end of the day. So, these things happen as you do things, as you try things, as you talk to people. And the only way you're going to be stuck in the present if you just wallow and keep everything in your mind and you just kind of ruminate and create these stories in your head. It needs to come out. It needs to come out, putting your energy out there. Last phase in the transformation, in the life quakes, is the new beginning. And that is, you've run your experiments, you've talked to the people, you've aligned with your family, you've made your financial planning, and now you have a story first that you create. Basically, the transformation that you went through from the shit that happened, the the things you were grappling with, trying, and what you've decided and how you came out on the other side. Because that's empowering. Having that story, creating that narrative that shows you going through the valley of despair and reaching the other side is self-affirming. It builds your confidence and it gives you the energy to do the hard work that comes with a new beginning, because it's not going to be easy many of these times, right? So there's in the handout, a 3-sentence story that you can tell yourself. Very, very, very simple. And the questions you should ask is, what changed and what it taught you? So the life quake that happened, and what did you learn? What are you building now and for whom? And that's basically maybe your new business. Maybe you're wanting to move towards helping, going on NGOs or things like that. And who is it for? So in the context of, for example, Substack, if you're building a publication, what are you building is, what is your publication about, and for who is your audience, right? So having that clarity. And of course, things are going to pivot a little bit. You're going to tweak as you go along. But it's just about you can run in a dark forest and kind of hope you find your way, or you can create a path for yourself that you're trying to follow. It's that. It's about being intentional about what you're doing instead of trying. And trying is not bad. It's not that you shouldn't try, but having a plan is always good. There's a famous, I don't know, a very successful Substack creator here called Anna Kalin. And she says, when you start your publication, you should know what it's about. You cannot hope that the niche happens later. And the reason for that is, think of a restaurant example. You don't open a restaurant and then you think what kind of restaurant it's going to be. You need to know from the beginning, like, it's a Chinese restaurant. We're making Chinese food here, or fusion something. You cannot figure it out later. You can try, but that's going to mean you're going to start a new publication when you figure out what you actually want to do, which might be also the same. It might also be okay. It's not like there's nothing absolutely wrong and absolutely right. And you can experiment and try new things. There's an exact part in your in everyone's kind of transformation story where you actually experiment, right? So that can be creating a publication where you're not really sure what you're going to do and you figure it out, and then you might either rebrand your publication or create a brand new one and say, okay, from now on I'm doing just this because I know that people are interested in that and everything is amazing. And then what you need to do when you have this kind of clarity of what you're going to do now and the story that you told yourself and others of the transformation is to make your plan public, to unveil your grand plan to the world. Why? Because you want your network to support you. You want people to start hearing, oh, she's consulting now. So if I need help with a legal audit, I can reach out to Noemi. Hi, Nicole. If someone needs to kind of deal with their inner transformation and find how to find peace, they go to Dr. Nicole and they speak to her about it, right? So it's about these types of things that would never happen if you just are like, just I have a plan. Now I'm like making products and digital things and I'm not telling anyone and I'm putting them on the internet but nobody knows. What are you doing? We need to use the platforms, the voice that God gave us, the relationships that we've built across the years, because people don't come to you as strangers. Oh, this stranger looks totally trustworthy and seems like she knows a lot about law. Let me give her my case. No. People that know you first come to you. People that have learned to trust you through maybe seeing you on Substack, seeing you in other types of context, might come to you. And then they refer other people. And then there's a momentum that gets built. But it all starts with being very vocal in public about what you're trying to do, what you're offering to the world. So that's the last phase of the transformation from a life quake to something new that you're gonna put out in the world, the new you, the new project, the new thing that you want to help other people with. And I would love to hear some questions if there's any, because my throat is very dry and I'm gonna sip my tea.
Dr. Nicole said vocal and visible. Okay. But I have to ask you, okay, in the meantime, I have to ask you about that picture. That picture is historic. I've seen it. Okay. Talk to me about it and what it means to you.
So, funny story about this picture. We found this picture with this frame, everything exactly like you see it. We had an empty wall of this color, and we went to a flea market. It was the day after the famous uh, Banks- Banksy
That's it.
where it exploded. The day after, we were in this loppe market, and this picture, the replica that exploded was in this local market, and we were just joking that, oh, is it gonna explode if we buy it? And they're like, ha 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 ha. Anyways, we got it and we brought it home, and what it symbolizes for me, and why actually in my publication I use a lot of balloons. I think even in my name here you see the red balloon. It's about dreaming. It's about never losing hope. And when you let go of hope, it's kind of like that balloon kind of flying away with all the joy and all the magic that could be in this world. So for me, it's a symbol of chasing joy, chasing your the thing that's intrinsically giving you the power to move on. So for me, I was reviewing contracts 80% of the time I was working in corporate. And I have to tell you, that's not my passion and something that makes me feel alive. And I don't think contracts make anyone feel alive. I mean,
No.
I was enjoying it and I'm really good at it, but I didn't want 80% of my time to be contracts. So, um, this kind of shift that I made and that my whole entire publication is about is to look inward, take me time, which is pause, think of what's happening, think of my needs, think of what I want, what brings me joy, and decide. So instead of having a life where you're just going through the motion, responding and reacting to external things that come your way, you take back control. It's your time. You take it back and you decide and you go towards what you want. I'm going to give an experiment on how this works. You can want a raise and you know you're the best. Not the raise, a promotion. You know you're poised to be the next department leader, let's say. And you have good relationship with everyone, the knowledge and everything like that. And in the end, it turns out that they give it to an external party that they decide to hire instead of giving it to you. And it feels like a huge slap in the face. And you can be distraught, bitter, do the quiet quitting thing, and just continue living there thinking, oh, I need the money. It's convenient because I can pick up my kids on the way back and whatever, and you suffer through it. Or you can say, you know what? You can give me the department leader role, but I can take the department leader role. And the way you do that is you start leading. And not only that, you start applying to leadership jobs. You start speaking in different contexts as a leader, and that role will show up where you're all of a sudden taking control and demanding that, but because you're changing who you are to identify with that reality, instead of waiting for this specific one person in this company that has to make this decision, decide your way, which is almost close to praying for it to happen. And I'm not saying praying doesn't work. I'm just saying having more control over what you do and your actions yields better results than wishing and hoping. Uh,
I couldn't agree more. But what I would like to say is that adversity builds resilience. Okay. And challenges are not seen as roadblocks, but as training grounds. Okay. And each difficulty teaches patience, adaptability, and endurance. And we need that. Okay. And within that space, there are hidden opportunities. And a lot of times they lay right below the surface and we're looking in the wrong places. Okay. So we need to look at each challenge as an opportunity. Okay. To go towards greatness. Okay. And we know that. And so it also allows us an opportunity to shift our perspectives. Okay. Because it allows us to see things from uh, different situations. So that is very key. So you have to take a step back, pause, like you said, and see everything around you, just not this problem in itself. Look around you and see what else is going on that you may not have considered. Okay?
And
Right?
many times the step back is very useful because when you're in it, you might not see the full picture. Like, I thought I was quite unsuccessful with my Substack, and I thought I was like, I'm not getting a lot of subscribers. It's like crickets over here. I don't know. I just had like I didn't feel like I would see others having millions, maybe not millions, but thousands and thousands of subscribers pouring in, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And then I was thinking about it, and I took a step back and I'm like, okay, but I'm not just doing Substack. I have my own business. I have all these things. And then I stood back and I looked, I'm like, I have a successful company that I built less than a year. I in the maybe my fifth month, I started making as much money as I was making in the previous role, working a fourth of the time. So I had time to then spend on Substack and other things where I wasn't really getting revenue, but it was for my soul and for my joy. And then I realized I'm not I'm not a failure. I'm doing a lot of amazing things, and sure, I don't have all the time and energy to use on Substack, and I don't know what other things you need to do to grow really fast, but I'm killing it. Otherwise, I was able to all this summer go play volleyball, which I love. Whenever I wanted, people would text, like people that are on leave or on vacation, whatever. I could go whenever I wanted. I'm the boss. My own boss, so I can decide if today I want to play volleyball or I want to work. That's a fucking awesome feeling and type of situation that I built for myself. And it would have never happened had I not sat down to figure out what I want to do and take the little steps in that direction. So, and yes, it came through a huge burnout, through kind of questioning my identity, questioning my life choices, losing friendships, losing credibility. Not credibility, I don't know credibility, but like, people that are in corporate and have roles and stuff, they look at me and she's like, what is she, a blogger? What does she do now? Anywho, I am free. I can do whatever I want. I work less than anyone I know. I'm less stressed than anyone I know. I am happy. So those are the things that change with this kind of switch from things happening to you making decisions about where you want to go. It's not going to happen that everything that you want will actually come out the way you planned, but you just take little steps. I like a bit of that. I like a bit of this other thing. And you just experiment. You move in the directions where there's pull, where there's demand. You spread your time to also give to having some sort of friendships and community, stuff that brings you joy, stuff that brings you money. And it would be amazing for all of it to come from one thing, but many times it doesn't happen like that. So you might need to diversify a bit your activities to kind of get all the three things that you
Wow, you on fire. Okay. I can see
need.
that. I can feel your energy. Okay. So, in the process of all of this, during hard times, it's important to strengthen relationships. Okay. Hard times often pulls people together. Shared struggles can deepen trust, build community, and strengthen bonds, as you talked about. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. And what you said, Margaret, before in your previous intervention about you might miss opportunities that are just hiding right under your nose, it really kind of struck with me in the sense that sometimes we can have these goggles on where we actually don't see the bigger pictures because maybe we're just so hurt because of layoff or whatever happened, and we don't see what's happening around us. But when you have this switch inside where like I'm looking for opportunities. I know I like this, that, and the other. You're gonna start noticing those opportunities that align with the things that you are looking for. But if you haven't defined them for yourself, then maybe I want to find something where I can work with coaching. Maybe I want to find something where I can write. Maybe I want to find something where I can speak to people and help them and inspire them. If you don't have those things kind of a little bit defined in your head, you're not going to be able to find those opportunities unless it hits you over the head, like literally, which never happens. So you better sit there and figure out a bit of what you want. You don't need to have all the answers. It doesn't have to be 100%, but you need to start doing that work.
I couldn't agree more. So during these times, clarity, as you said earlier, what matters, okay? Obstacles often strips away the non-essential, bringing clarity to what truly deserves our time, energy, and attention, like you said earlier.
Yes. Yes. I could not agree more, Margaret. So how did you handle the process of knowing that you're going to stop working for the government? And do you kind of feel yourself having passed through the phases that we discussed?
There's three phases of grief, okay? I'm at the point, let's get it over with, okay? I've been through all the other phases, anger and sadness and all that, but it's still a process because as I get closer to September 30th, okay, it's bittersweet, okay? When you give your life to something, you sacrifice everything for that, and then you then you've been treated like crap, okay? So that's not a good feeling because
Mm,
everybody wants, like if you're a football player, a soccer player, whatever, you want to leave on the top of your game. You don't want to be in the down there. Okay.
mm.
You've given everything. It was never enough. It's like, okay, you just, you know, you just
You're
sever the ties and move on. Like you said, you get rid of everything associated with that. I don't want to see it, and you move on. You die and you're reborn. Like you said, you come back a new person, and you can't cry over spilt milk. You leave it. What lesson did I learn from this? Because if I had it to do all over again, I would did it the same way. I would still work for the government. Okay, that was the most gratifying thing in my life. Okay, the work that I did, the people that I worked with, we were downstream together. We supported and uplifted each other. We we held space for each other. We It was about loyalty. Uh, so we can all come back alive to our families. And I forget I'm no longer associated with the military, and this is the real world. And I have to remind myself of that. Okay, I'm like, okay, you're not in the military anymore, so you're alone. Okay, all right, okay,
I
get
think you're
yourself
ever
together.
alone, but I think with every chapter, and I think it touched with me. Um, e- every time you move to a new role, a new chapter, you're not starting from zero. All the experience, all of the things you've built, all of the knowledge you have stays with you. There's a lot of examples of people leaving the military that I've seen and read about that go into consulting and other things because they're really good at building teams, creating structures, helping people deal with fear or things like that, depending on kind of what roles. And that happens with everything. Like with me, with consulting, I learned all these skills before I learned how to help a business grow before, and now I'm just doing it for myself, right? It's not that now I'm starting from this. No, I'm starting from 12, maybe even more years of experience of helping companies, of doing this thing for a meager salary. Maybe not meager, but still. And now I'm doing it on my terms, when I want, the way I want to do it. And I didn't start from zero. It's zero in terms of, yes, it's a new company, it's a new way of doing it. I'm building a client list, but in terms of experience, in terms of what I know and what I bring to the table, it's a different game. And so sometimes a door closed can be the shove you need to kind of put yourself at the next level. So, as we were saying in the title about every transition, every hard thing has a silver lining. I do invite everyone here, when you're dealing with this life quake, with these situations that kind of shake the foundations of your life, to really search for that silver lining. And it might not be visible from the beginning, but it's always there. And as a mental exercise to prove this to yourself, think of things that happened in the past that were like this life quake and whatever, and try to figure out if there were those silver linings in that, because you're gonna find, looking through them, that actually, yeah, there were. Not saying that, losing a loved one can have more upsides than downsides, but I'm saying every transition teaches you some lessons. Like when I lost my father, I realized that I don't want to die for my work, that I don't want to be so stressed that I'm neglecting my health to a point where I'm not going to see my daughter turn 18. And when I burnt out because of having losing my father, because of stress in a way that kind of destroyed his health, I knew that that's a wake up call for me and I need to take action now, 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 for that to not be a recurring story in our family that we just kill ourselves for work. And I made these changes that brought me to the life I have now, with working less time and enjoying sports and community and doing these beautiful things here. But it was because of, not because, but that terrible life quake taught me a lesson. So you can choose to learn the lessons that terrible, terrible things in your life can bring you, or you could kind of stay stubborn in your path. And I'm not sure which one is better, but I feel like learning our lessons is really important to evolving and making sure that we get to the next level and the next level and the next.
I couldn't agree more. So, based on what you said, uh, these things are a catalyst for growth. A change pushes us out of our comfort zone. This discomfort is the birthplace of creativity, leadership, and mastery. Okay. And as you spoke on earlier in the conversation about stories worth telling, okay, the moments of challenge and the silver linings we find become most powerful stories of resilience, courage, and triumph, as you talked about today.
I want to speak about resilience. Maybe that can be our last little point, because I have a problem with the word resilience. So, resilience, what it means is basically something happens to you. Let's say someone says something mean to you, or the work environment is really toxic, and you're kind of handling it, and you can bounce back. It doesn't like bend you, it doesn't break you. Hard things don't affect you, and that's a good thing. I'm not saying that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Resilience is good. But I hate it when people use need of resilience in job descriptions, for example. I'm like, this is a job. This is not going to war. If I need resilience for a job, that's a huge, huge red flag for me. So people kind of took this resilience thing to an extreme that I don't know yet. I don't think people should have or exercise their resilience at work. Sure, there's hard things that also happen at work and you need to deal with everything. But when everything is about resilience, then I feel like there's something unhealthy there. But again, we work in a world and the competition is so high, like doctors, for example, they need to exert this type of resilience, because otherwise they're not going to pass through their training and things like that. And I do understand that, but I'm not saying it's healthy. because it's not. And a lot of these fields need some sort of restructuring from the ground up to make sure that these doctors are not burnt, traumatized shells of themselves, and not being able to, when you're arrested, when you're well fed and so on, you're a much better doctor than when you're like, you've been through hell and back, and like now you're a doctor and like now you need to work, I don't know, 60 hours a day taking care of people and having their lives in your hands. It's just not right, right? So
Right.
I know things are not ideal right now, and sometimes we cannot choose it, but I think realizing certain things are wrong is the first step to making these changes. And the other thing about resilience, something that's better than resilience, is called, how is it called? Now it's falling. It's not in my mind, but it's basically bouncing back. It's basically being malleable. It's not resilience is you push on me, the thing pushes on me, and then I'm back to normal. When you have this elasticity, it's kind of like muscles. When you work out, the muscle tissue breaks and then it gets stronger. That's what I'm talking.
Expands. Expands.
Expands and gets stronger. And
Mhm.
that's what is this kind of other thing. I cannot remember the name, but who cares how it's called? It's about when something bad happens to you, you think about it. I don't want to be the same when I'm out of it. I want to be better. I want to learn my lessons. I want to come out stronger, wiser, and further ahead than what I've been. And that's kind of the invitation that I invite you to take as a mentality, as a goal for yourself, because resilience just means if we get slapped around, we're gonna withstand. But we don't want to be slapped around. We want to get stronger. So those slaps feel less and less hard, and they stop at one point because you're too strong and you're bounced out of whatever situation was slapping you. So that's what I'm trying to say. I feel like there's so much emphasis made put on resilience, but resilience keeps us captive of an environment that is difficult, that is challenging. That's not an environment where you want to be. So resilience kind of keeps us in this like, I can withstand. But how long can you really withstand until your health breaks, your confidence breaks, your relationships break? It's not healthy.
I couldn't agree with you more. But that's how I got to this point. What you described is part of resilience, okay, for me. Okay. You have to build the muscles. If you don't, then they're not going to, sustain the body. Okay. It's part of your core. Okay. So mind, body, spirit is all one. Okay. So that's why I love these collaborations. You get an opportunity to see different viewpoints. Okay. And then people can decide for themselves, but you are the master. You are a lawyer, and I trust and believe what you're saying is true. Okay. I respect
Never
you.
trust in lawyers. Never trust them. I'm joking.
Well, that's what they say. But in this instance, I trust what you're saying. Okay.
I mean, I think anything anyone says needs to be taken through the filter of your own experience, your own beliefs, your own life. Don't take for granted what anyone is saying. So the handout for my subscribers, and maybe also Margaret will share with hers, will give you information that then you can take some me time, pause, think about it, figure out your next steps. You decide. You're the one that decides what's right for you, what's good for your family, what's good for your society, your community. It's you. You don't need to blindly trust in people because sometimes people don't even trust in themselves. They're just speaking because they're nervous and don't know what to say. You need to take back that control. We all would be in such a better place if we would stop second guessing ourselves and fearing what others think and so on, and just take the power that God gave us and do beautiful things with it and help people and give something back. That's the reason why we're put on this planet. And I'm not trying to say it in a religious way or anything else, but like, we're here to grow, to live, to love, to give joy, to experience joy. We're not here to suffer and build fucking resilience.
Well, I'm going to see what people have to say. Dr. Nicole said it's capacity, she said. When,
When I do
okay.
know the word, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah. She's powerful. She said, yes, true. They need to pause and restructure their patterns. Okay. Let's see if anybody else have any comments. Dr. Nicole, I'm always drawn to the red balloon and never knew what it meant. My red dot has meaning also. I'll have to share with you one day. All right. I love these lives because it gives us opportunity to get varying viewpoints and perspectives. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, put them in the message. Otherwise, it's almost time for me to go pick up my daughter, which is also a beautiful thing to do. And yeah, I hope what I said, my little rant, my little presentation, everything can help you guys, process what's going on. As I said, just to recap, changes, life quakes, things that happen to you, like an illness or a new baby or a move or a layoff, happen all the time. Apparently, scientifically, it happens every 5 years, a life quake, and you can choose to do something about it and have a structured, constructive approach to it. And you can look at the handout with the steps if you joined a bit later. Or you can start just stay in the loop of asking yourself, why this, why me, why now, why this? And that's not going to be constructive. You can do it for a while, but then you need to kind of accept what's happening and move towards something constructive. And it's all about taking back control, taking back your power, and putting it towards what your dreams are, what your goals are, what your values are, and aligning your life to who you are, what's important to you, what your values are, what your talents are, is what is gonna make you seem superhuman. And I'm not speaking lightly, but it's more about, if you figure out a way to work with your superpowers, you're gonna be a freaking hurricane of a person doing things that other people are like, how can she do this? How can he do this? Because you're working with your superpowers, you're working with the things you love, so you have more energy when you're doing it. Or you can just stay in the self-pity and self wallow of, oh, always me, they fired me, always me, I'm sick, or things like that. We're all sick, we're all fired, we're all dealing with a lot of difficulties. People around us are getting sick, our families demand a lot of us, companies are trying to get all our time, and so on. It's what you do with it that is different, and that can transform your life. And there's no guru or coach or priest or anyone that can do the work. It's only you. And you can take the inputs that come from this live, from something you read, from a book, from anything, that then will give you the internal inspiration to start making change. So I wish all of you to be inspired by this, by others, to make the change you need to do to reach a life that's full of joy, satisfaction, more free time to give to your family, to your hobbies, to yourself. And then even if there's instability and other life quakes or things might happen, you know you'll be able to withstand because you've done it once, you can do it again. And as we said at the beginning, just to kind of wrap it up in a circle, the only constant in life is change. So it's about how you deal with it that makes the difference.
I know you got to go, but I just want to ask the audience one question. What challenges in your life revealed a silver lining you didn't see it at first? That's something to think about because, they always say you can't see the forest for the trees. So awareness is key.
Yes. I would love to see if anyone is brave enough to even share in the chat. I'll wait for a couple minutes and see what's happening. If someone wants to share, I feel like me and Margaret shared so much, it's only fair. Mhm. Have you seen the movie Silver Linings Playbook?
May have. It
It's
sounds familiar.
ooh, the death of my father in a car accident. Oh no.
I'm so sorry.
The question was, what was something you that happened to you, like a life quake, something terrible that somehow had a silver lining to it? And Nicole, what was the silver lining? Because yeah, it's sometimes, yeah, really terrible things that you would never think could have a silver lining, unlikely as it sounds, could still have one.
Like, for example, walking away from my $130,000 job, the best thing that ever happened because now I was able to devote to my business and coaching. And I should have did it years ago because I was miserable. I was
Mm,
just treading water. I was just treading water.
that's a silver lining. That's a beautiful silver lining. And that's the thing. Sometimes it's the push you need. Okay, so Nicole said growth for me and the recognition of the need to shift and care for myself better. The drive to go after my dreams now. And that's beautiful. And yeah, same for me. Mm, yeah. And I think the most common example of something terrible happening is burnout. Every person, and I'm talking about following many burnout experts because I was trying to deal with burnout and didn't have any resources to speak of. So I started doing a lot of research. And what they say, these burnout recovery experts, is that burnout somehow is also a stepping stone to you redefining your boundaries, your what you need from life, and making huge life changes, because otherwise you'll be back where you started. You will be back in a burnout mode sooner or later. So it's a terrible thing. You might be like stuck in bed for days or weeks or months, not being able to do anything productive. But once you kind of start the recovery process, you become a different person normally if you do it right, to the point where you make better choices about your life, your career, your health, and you just are a different person, 2.0 version of yourself, kind of the phoenix rising out of the ashes. But the premise for that is the burnout, is that crash and burn where you're like a shell of your former self. Because there's kind of this way that we work in this society where it starts with, pushing, 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 grinding, 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 and then doing this, and you're young and you can do it and you don't need to sleep and you can travel and then work a million hours and then start over again and then somehow also make kids and take care of them and teach them things. And then at one point, because you're not superhuman, because we're not superhuman, any of us, your body starts
No.
cracking and you crash and burn. And then what comes at the other side is like, okay, I know how to succeed by working my ass off. Can I now work smart and still be successful? Can I still have that career or that amount of revenue but work less and see my kids more and have more energy for all the things that I do? So it's a terrible teacher, but it's a teacher nonetheless. Well, now I really have to go, Margaret. Thank you so much for
Thank,
inviting me.
thank you so much. Where'd you say that article or whatever it is? Did you send it to
In
me?
the chat of my publication, but I can send it to you just because it's easier. It's a link to my Canva where I just created it.
That
Uh,
way, that way I can include it in the video when I
oh,
send it out.
just give me a second. I'll
No
send it to
problem.
you on the chat, so you'll be able to share it in the recording of this live. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so
everyone,
much.
for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's been fun. All right,
I
bye.
hope I
Yeah,
hope
go
it
ahead.
was good for you guys. Have a lovely day. Thank you
You
again for
too.
having me.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. All right, bye bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.